News Radio 840 WHAS. Good Sunday morning. Bob Sokoler and the Louisville Real Estate Show here with you until the top of the hour. The folks joining us today, my buddy Randy Rocky. He is over at Swan Financial. They really do a great job getting you pre-approved and to the closing table. And you can reach Randy anytime on his phone, 502-645-0736. Also here in for Lee Harris, who had some work shadow work on this Sunday morning, is Brant Sloan, who is another fine attorney over at Limestone Title and Escrow, and they get you closed. So Randy gets you set up and to get the loan, and then Brant and his folks get you closed. And you can reach Brant and Lee and everybody else on Lee's cell phone, 649-7964. Welcome to both you guys. And if you're looking to sell your home or buy, you can reach me, Bob Sokoler. You call me, we could talk on the phone, via Zoom. It could be in person. I don't mind driving anywhere to talk. It's free, no obligation. Come up with a plan, and we'll help you figure out how we can best help you sell your home and buy a new one. All right, so we've got a lot of questions. We're going to start, Mr. Rocky, with you. Samantha sent us an email. She is a first-time home buyer, and she's wondering what the top 3 mortgage mistakes home buyers make when getting ready to buy a home. Now, I'll give you one, and then you pick up the other 2, okay? The first one is buying a brand new car. Explain why that's not a good idea.
Debt to income. That can get you the point where your debt is too high. Now you don't have enough income, and you will not qualify for the home.
Okay, so how far before the decision to make a purchase of a home can you not buy a car, going out and buying?
Well, it depends on the individuals. If they make enough income, obviously we allow it to happen. But what we really try to do is say, hey, hopefully you're going to buy the house. If we know their time frame, if it's going to be in the next 30, 45, 60 days, could you wait? If you can't wait, then we work with them, make sure that debt to income works with the new car. And if it does, that's fine. We'll make it work. But if to keep things easy, we would rather just have them close and not open up any new credit cards, not really close out any accounts, not pay off a collection if there's even a collection involved. Just kind of do status quo after we have them pre-approved until we get them, one of your team members gets them to the closing table.
And so I take it that's items 2, 3, and 4 on your list in terms of credit cards don't do that payoff. So you've actually answered the whole thing right there. Very good. In one bill, I've never seen you so succinct. Nice job. Very nice.
That says a lot about me not being distinct, but I'm used to
distinct. Yeah, no. Normally it's a little longer, but you did good. All right, Brant, we're throwing over to you.
All
right. News, and see what you think on this. This is actually interesting. And Randy, feel free to jump in. 2 new studies show how money impacts move-in decisions among couples. A new Zillow study shows that single renters, meaning renters who are solely responsible for housing costs, pay what amounts to a singles tax of nearly $7,000 a year. You may or may not know this, folks. And that's just the national average. In pricier metros, not Louisville, the amount can be as high as $19,500. Or put it another way, cohabitating renters can save a collective $14,000 a year or more just by living together. Now, there's more to this. Another study conducted by Realtor.com and Harris X shows how high housing costs have some couples deciding to cohabitate before they're ready. With so many Americans struggling to pay the bills and save money, it is not surprising more of them are splitting the rent. And who better to do that with than someone that you might actually want to marry down the road? So, Brent, here's the question. What agreements should couples have in place before moving in together for protection of property? And if they buy a home together, what documents should they have their attorney or you or Lee draw up in an attempt to protect them when they move in together? Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a great question. And Bob, thanks for having me on here this morning. And I appreciate the opportunity to fill in for Lee. This is a situation that comes up fairly frequently in my line of work where, it's not uncommon, obviously, these days for people that are not married to cohabitate or to even buy a home together. And when they do that, it presents a host of questions that are not always the most comfortable things to talk about necessarily, right?
Mhm.
You've got a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and you decide that, okay, we're going to buy a home together. Um, the first thing I'm curious about is, are both parties bringing money to the table for the down payment, or is it one-sided? Um, and those are just things to think about if you're in that position, because from our perspective, when we do a closing, um, typically when there's two people that are going on title together, the sort of default presumption is that those people want to be what we call joint tenants with survivorship. Okay. And I'll try not to get too into the weeds
Don't go down there. Right.
the
Yeah.
legal things,
Right.
but typically if it's a couple, they're joint tenants with survivorship, which means that if one of them passes away, the other person owns the house. No question asked. It doesn't have to go to probate. It doesn't have to go to in front of a judge. If one person dies, the other person just owns the property. Um, the listeners can probably foresee, that's a little bit of a bigger decision to make when this person is someone that you're not married to. Maybe
Right.
maybe
Right.
you're just in a relationship with them. And so I always encourage people to think about the consequences of that down the road. Obviously, everybody that's in a relationship wants to have the best hopes, and they think that relationship's going to last forever, and that they're going to be with that person forever. And we all hope that, but it doesn't always work out that way, obviously, in reality. So one of the things I always talk to people about when they ask me this question is, really think about, do you want to own a property in survivorship with this person, or would it make more sense for you to own it as what we call tenants in common, which is where each person has an equal 50% interest in the property, and then if forbid something happens to one of those folks and they pass away, their 50% would then go to their heirs and not to the surviving person in the relationship. So
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing, is deciding how those people should hold title to the property.
And let's back up with regards if they're just living together, cohabitating in a rental property. Is there an agreement that they should have that protects them against taking someone else's property in the event that the relationship dissolves?
Yeah, I mean, I think in those scenarios, I mean, it's not a bad idea to have some kind of written agreement, between the parties that just clarifies, a whole host. I mean, all the way from, how is the rent being split? Who is it 50/50? Is it 70/30? How do we agree that we're paying the rent? And then on top of that, is there renter's insurance? And if so, who again, how is that being paid for? And is that renter's insurance going to cover, everyone's belongings that are in the apartment, or is it just for the person that's paying for the policy? That's something to think about. And then I also think that this might be a little bit overboard. It maybe doesn't happen that often in practice, but it's not a bad idea to maybe just have a written agreement that makes it very clear that, each person is bringing their own personal property, into this house or apartment, whatever it may be,
Yep.
and just making clear that upon the event that somebody moves out of the property, you know, each is entitled to what they brought with them, essentially, right? You don't
Yeah.
get to
Yeah.
confiscate your partner's belongings if you break up and they move out. And that can all, we can draw up agreements to that effect, and everybody can sign something. And I think it's just good peace of mind to have.
I think there's one more thing I think that might be important in a piece of paper or something that both parties sign, that in the event a relationship falls apart, then whoever is leaving, or there's an agreement who leaves within a specific period of time, so that the party that's uh, leaving or having a problem doesn't stay there indefinitely.
Mhm.
That makes
Yeah.
sense? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a great point. Yeah, and I've had people come to me after the fact. They're in that situation and they don't have any kind of document or agreement that they made prior,
Mhm.
and so they come to us, and we kind of end up playing mediator a little bit, in terms of just trying to get everybody comfortable with, how many days do you have to move out, and when are you going to come pick up all your things, and all that good stuff. So it's definitely better to have a plan ahead of time than to be reacting after the fact.
Put it in writing, and we'll be giving out Limestone's number in just a few minutes. By the way, if you've piqued your interest in this and you're thinking, I'd like somebody I know to hear this, go to LouisvilleAnswers.com, and that's the redirect to our YouTube channel. But we also put this out on my Facebook pages. We put these questions and answers out on our YouTube site. So LouisvilleHomesTV.com is another place to see a lot of the stuff that we post. LouisvilleHomesTV.com. All right, we move on to Randy. Tony buying a home this year, but he doesn't have a whole lot of money in his bank account, Randy. He's wondering if he could cash in some of the gold, really gold, that he's purchased over the years and use that as money down payment. Can someone use that?
Yeah, absolutely. And well, we can do a no money down home. But if they want to put money down, which is advisable if they can, because they get a better rate in that situation, and not a big a payment, I would recommend to go ahead and cash the gold in and have it in a savings account separate for 60 days. The reason I say that is then when we verify the asset, as long as it's been seasoned for 60 days, then we do not have to verify where it came from, because then it gets a little bit sloppy when you have to go in and say, okay, he had gold. Okay, how did he get the gold? And then all that. So we can.
You have to source it, is what you're saying. You need to source it. Yeah. So, okay. So remember, folks, that's a really important point. 60 days. And if not, like, for example, if there's a gift coming from a parent or guardian, you will need, if it's going to happen within a couple of weeks of the closing or a loan approval, you're going to need some sort of form of letter from the parent that indicates that this is coming from me or from a guardian, correct?
That's right. And we tell them in a lot of situations, if the parent is going to go ahead and give them the money, put it in a savings account, let it sit for 60 days, and we don't even have to get into letters or, then we have to source sometimes where did they get it from the checking account? Where and so then we just stop a whole can of worms.
Becomes difficult. Yeah. All right, let's one question more before we take a break on this, and this may be of interest to a lot of people. Amy writing in on this, Brant. She's renting a home with her boyfriend. We've struck a chord here. There was a fire in the house, and part of the furniture has smoke damage. Her boyfriend has renter's insurance, but Amy says she does not, and the insurance company won't pay to replace or repair Amy's furniture because the insurance policy was actually her boyfriend's. Now, you alluded to something like this, and just a quick follow-up. So what would you, at this point, is she out of luck?
I mean, probably, unfortunately, at this point, she probably is out of luck. And so again, to reiterate, I think the more that a couple in a situation like that can plan ahead and make sure that everybody's names are on those policies, and that it's clear who's paying for those and who's covered and what items are covered. That's obviously a very wise thing to do.
Yep.
And I feel bad for the writer, in this situation. That's
Amy. Yeah. Yep.
Tough.
It's tough. It really is. Listen, if you're looking to sell your home, and who at this point, a lot of people are thinking about it for this year, you want to find somebody who's got a great track record. That's us, Sokoler team. You can head over to see some of the reviews we get. Go to LouisvilleZillow.com, or you can go to LouisvilleGoogle.com. And if you want to see our main website, go to WeSellLouisville.com. That's WeSellLouisville.com. We're taking a break. With us continuing, Randy Rocky, Swan Financial, 645-0736. In for Lee Harris today is Brant Sloan, who's another attorney at Limestone, doing a great job. And you can reach Lee and Brant eventually at 649-7964. Then you can reach me, Bob Sokoler. You're thinking about selling? Well, I can come out, or we can talk via Zoom or on the phone. Free, no obligation, to discuss what the plans are and how to get it accomplished, and then buy another home. We've got 12 agents who are ready to help you. We're taking a break. And by the way, you can reach me at 376-5483. We're back in a moment on News Radio 840 WHAS. News Radio 840 WHAS, Bob Sokoler, the Louisville Real Estate Show, here with you until the top of the hour on this Sunday morning. Still with us, thank goodness, because it would be a very slow show if it was just me alone. We have Randy Rocky at Swan Financial. You can reach Randy at 645-0736. They do a great job of getting you pre-approved and to the closing table. And at the closing table, we can't recommend highly enough the folks at Limestone Title and Escrow. And Brant Sloan is in for Lee Harris today. And you can reach the folks over there actually using Lee Harris's personal cell phone at 649-7964. And again, if you're looking to think about doing buying a home or selling a home, we'll come out. I'll be there on the phone with you or in person, and we'll talk about the plan and free of charge, no obligation to get that information. You can reach me at 376-5483. That's 376-5483. And my thanks to Barbara Corcoran. We're going up to see her in a couple of weeks to shoot a new commercial with her. So looking forward to seeing her. All right, we move on. Randy, Bell will be buying a house in the next couple of months. Her father's an investment banker. He told Bell not to worry so much about the Fed raising short-term interest rates because he says long-term interest rates are not directly tied to the short-term increases. She's kind of confused because she keeps hearing back and forth about the Fed increasing rates. Okay, we hear it all. Can you explain simply the difference between short and long-term rates and how they do?
Yes, short-term rates, and there is some core, but they kind of trend the same to a certain extent, but they don't. Yes, he is correct. So basically what short-term rates do, they're more into credit cards, car loans, things of that nature. And then when you get into long-term rates, you're into bonds, you get into more Fannie Freddie product and long-term rates. So a lot of times, now it hasn't happened in this scenario. Long-term rates did go, short-term and long-term rates really did go up together. But in a lot of situations throughout my and I'm showing my age, my 22-year or 23-year career now, that did not happen. But in this situation, it has. But now you're starting to see long-term rates drop. So he is correct. It looks like the Feds are talking about raising short-term rates again, which astonishes me. But that's another story for another day.
Yep.
But I think that long-term rates are going to come down.
Good, and so do I. We all hope that's going to happen, and we've talked about this in past shows. And thinking between 4.5% and 5.5%, where they'll eventually
yes. And that, the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, comes out May the 10th. Mark that date. It's going to be very encouraging, and I think that's when you're really going to start to see rates continually decline. And the one thing we're doing is, because of that, we do it for your clients as a loan officer and client for life, is we're doing a no closing cost refinance, because the rates are high right now, to get people an incentive to go ahead and buy. Because I think when rates drop, I think, and you will probably agree, housing is going to be more demand, and which means that it's already in big demand, but which I think housing is going to go up. So,
and I think the part people should take away from what Randy just said, folks, is you can right now you're not competing with as many people as who will be in the marketplace come later this year when the rates start come down. So you can potentially find your home, a dream home, buy it, and yes, it's going to be a little bit higher rate than you want. But then, as you hear with Swan, all you do is you contact Randy, they refi it at a lower interest rate and no cost at that point, right?
Well, and this will be interesting, Bob. March of 2022. What do you think the average on a house that was $300,000 in Louisville? What do you think the average? And it was a decent house. How many offers do you think were on it? Seriously.
Well, listen, not. I would say probably 25 or 30, where right now you're
exactly
dealing with one. But I want to follow up.
That's right.
You brought this up. And Brent, you're going to love this. 3 weeks ago, we put a house on the market and we priced it at a really good price. And within a day, 87 visitors. One day. I got a call from an agent here in Louisville who said, Bob, I can't get into the house. There's too many people in there already. That's how hot this house was. By the end of that day, 11 offers, 4 of them cash, and we sold the house for 20% over list. And our sellers are pretty happy about that.
Yeah.
So
I would say so.
Yeah. So there you go. Just so, yes, it was hot a year ago to some level, but if the house is priced right, good condition and location, you're going to see people come. I'll give out my number.
Yeah.
We'll talk more if you want.
Well, and one last thing on this,
Yeah.
my own family. If my daughter was not transferring to Atlanta, she would be buying a house in Louisville right now, not 4 months from now. Right now,
right
I
now,
just think
yeah.
I think this is the time to buy. I really do.
Yeah, especially with SWAT offering a refi that's free. All right, we move on. Brett, so Kitty is writing in. She's buying a home sometime this year, and this is going to be interesting, folks. A friend of her gave her some questions to ask when she visits the home. Her real estate agent says these may not be the right questions to ask because they may violate some sort of discrimination law. Okay. So she's asking us, and specifically, Brent, you, if she can ask the following questions. All right. I'm going to give you the question, and then you tell me yes or no and give me a quick answer why, because we got a couple of these.
Sure.
She wants to ask, why is this home for sale? Not a problem, right?
No, I don't think there's any issue with that. Now, the seller obviously uh, can divulge as little or much information as they want to in that regard, I suppose. But I don't no legal issue, I think, with asking that.
All right. Now we get a little bit gray area here. How are the neighbors? She says she wants to ask, how are the neighbors?
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts?
I think that generally speaking, it's okay to get the seller's take on, their neighbors, their street. Is everybody friendly? Are there a bunch of kids, in the neighborhood? I think be careful though with, obviously anything that gets into the demographic makeup of the neighbors is possibly going to get you into some trouble. So,
well, and you're reading my mind, or you've already seen her question, because she says the next question is, can she ask the neighbors or the owner, if the owner is there, what's the makeup of the neighborhood? That's
no,
the problem.
I mean, well, let's be clear, I guess, right? She can ask, but should her agent answer, or should her agent or the listing agent, provide an answer to that, and that would be no, right? That would be a no go.
Now, if she wanted to go on her own, if Kitty wants to go out to the neighborhood on her own, walk the neighborhood and talk to the neighbors and ask questions, absolutely. But as a real estate agent, we are trained. It is drilled into our head to avoid any questions that might create this type of a problem. So be aware of that, folks. So let's continue. She asks, were any additions or major repairs made to the home? That's not a problem, right? And it should be on the disclosure.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Yeah, those,
yep.
Of course, ask away about all that.
And then the next one she has, we're down to the last two. Has anyone died in the home? So that's an interesting question, and it's very sensitive to a lot of people.
It is, and and I'm not an expert on this question as far as throughout the United States. Every jurisdiction is different in this regard, but here in Kentucky, a seller does not have to disclose, does not have to voluntarily disclose that someone has passed away in the property. Some states you do; it's required. You have to disclose that. In Kentucky, there's no automatic disclosure of that. But I believe if a buyer asks, it's incumbent on the seller to provide an honest, forthright answer.
Because the neighbor may be the one who does it, and you don't want to be in a trap where you say, no, there wasn't a death, and then the neighbor says, yeah, I saw the ambulance and the hearse and all the morgue and all that. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Final question. Has anyone ever felt a spirit in the home? That may be funny to some people, but there are a lot of people who who believe in this, that it needs to be asked.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Well, again, I think that's I don't think that falls under any kind of fair housing umbrella. So I think that the buyer can ask, and the seller can provide the best answer that they can in that situation. I don't think there's anything that prevents the buyer from asking, but again, the seller that's kind of going to be a very particular answer, I guess, depending on whether the seller believes that there are spirits in the house or not. And obviously, you're getting into some metaphysical concerns there as opposed to physical issues with the property. So
Yeah.
I wonder how many people ask that, and then how many people that are selling the house would say yes. I mean, that's a pretty crazy.
Well, but listen,
I'm with you.
When I did TV, when I did Louisville Tonight Live, I actually won an Emmy for a series I did on Go.
You won an Emmy?
Yeah, I won 2. So there you go. 2, buddy boy, 2. But it was about a series. This one was on ghosts and where there are people who believe that these areas are haunted. So we're not here to yes or no, right or wrong.
Right.
That's posing the question.
Right.
So it is fascinating, and there are other questions. I know there are many people who also want to know what direction the front door faces, because there's a belief in it needs to face this direction, and so and listen, I've sold a lot of homes for both buyers and sellers. I know these questions come up on a regular basis.
Yeah.
All right, it is interesting. All right, so we are just about out of time. A reminder, if you want to see what sellers are actually saying about us, you can go to LouisvilleSellersTalk.com. Again, you can read some of the reviews at LouisvilleZillow.com or LouisvilleGoogle.com. And if you want to see our main website, go to WeSellLouisville.com. There you go. We are out of time. My thanks, Brant. You did a great job. Brant Sloan over at legal counsel at the Limestone Title and Escrow. Lee Harris is off this morning. She's actually the legal counsel person. Brant is an attorney over there. But you did a great job. Really nice.
I appreciate you having me, Bob. Thank you very much.
You can pinch hit for Lee anytime she needs you to. Also, Randy Rocky, they do a phenomenal. So remember, Limestone, great people to close your loan. But
yes, they are.
Randy Rocky, Swan Financial, they're great folks to get pre-approved and get you to the closing table. And that's Swan and Randy's number 645. That's 645-0736. And you can reach me day or night, weekends as well. As soon as this show's over, you can reach out and call me on my phone. 376-5483. That's 376-5483. Out of time. See you next Sunday on News Radio 840 WHAS.